Hi, my name's Phil. I like to talk about politics. In this video, I'd like to discuss the idea that journalists at the BBC, as well as other mainstream media outlets, have been told to go easy on ministers and what the damage this could cause. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, then please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So yes, I'm going to talk about the potential failure of the media again. It seems to be a recurring topic, but it's absolutely crucial to minimising the impact of this coronavirus emergency. How often have we said in the past how vital it is for a democracy to have a free press? And the thing about important institutions is that they are elevated from important to crucial at times of national emergency. A crap government does more harm in a national crisis than in good times, and a crap media likewise. For example, if we take a look at the newspaper headlines from yesterday. Now, bear in mind that this was several days after Boris Johnson had recovered enough to have been discharged from not only intensive care but hospital completely. Several days after. It was certainly good news and quite right that it be headline news at the time, but days later, no. What about the 10,000 people who have died in the country? And what about the many more still to come? And looking at the papers, there is a clear split between left and right wing. All the right-wing papers, which are the majority, were reporting on the days-old news that Boris Johnson was getting better. The two mainstream left-wing papers were reporting real news. So how much more damaging when you know newspapers are not going to report objectively when the BBC also don't? John Humphreys, who worked at the BBC and of course still has contacts, has been saying that his information is that BBC bosses are telling interviewers not to put ministers under pressure. Now, this is obviously a little bit of hearsay. Naturally, the BBC have denied it. But they say you only have to look at their interviews to see that this is not in actual fact the case. And actually, when you look at the way they're interviewing ministers, it doesn't actually disprove the allegation at all. Yes, we saw Emily Maitlis on Newsnight issuing a powerful statement of truthful reality, which I talked about at the weekend, but that wasn't an interview. That wasn't an interview of a minister. So where are journalists going wrong in their coverage? Obviously, rewriting the news that Johnson is getting better every single day and putting it on your front page is not the way to go. But last week, Alastair Campbell, who is Tony Blair's former spin doctor, wrote an article explaining how he would go about questioning ministers as a result of a Sky journalist going, well, what would you do then? So he made the point that the best questions are short, where a factual answer is required and where it is reasonable for the interviewee to know the answer. And that stands to reason because a long question allows a minister or anyone else responding to pick a little bit of the question, ignoring the main point, and then they move on and don't ask you another question, they go to someone else. If a factual answer is not specifically required, then of course they won't give one. They'll talk in very vague terms, which again provide you with no useful information. And also, if there is any element of doubt about whether the minister in question would reasonably know the answer, they'll just claim that they don't, whether they do or they do not. Journalists absolutely have to ask questions that must be answered or refused, because if the respondent refuses to answer the question, well, that in itself is telling. And that can also be useful in shining a spotlight on what they are doing. There can be no half measures. If a journalist doesn't think very, very carefully about the question they are asking, as well as the way they are asking it, then they're just wasting everyone's time. Don't even bother. Campbell even came up with a few questions that he would ask. So one of them was, do you still think it was a good idea to have allowed 250,000 people to amass at the Cheltenham Festival after the World Health Organization had officially declared coronavirus a pandemic? Second, there were 3 million people daily on the London Underground at the time other countries were going into lockdown. Does that partly explain why London has been so badly hit? And third, everyone will be pleased the Prime Minister is out of intensive care and wish him well in his recovery. But was he wise to boast about shaking hands with coronavirus patients? Or be so lax at social distancing, not least at these briefings? And was this not all part of a pattern? He and you did not take this virus as seriously as you should have done, which is one of the reasons why more than 10,000 people have died. And that last question is of course not a short question, but it's made up of lots of little short questions in case of course they didn't come back to you. And it wouldn't be possible for a minister to pick a little bit of it in safety either. Every single one of those little bits of questions is an absolute minefield for a minister trying to cover up the truth. There were other suggestions for questions as well, pretty good. You can read them yourself in the description below if you like. I don't need to read the whole lot myself. But I think the important point to make is that you are literally allowing people to die needlessly as a journalist if you do not ask the right questions in the right way, in a way that must elicit a response. Yes, this places a lot of responsibility on the heads of journalists who get to interview ministers, but no one forces them to do it. They're well rewarded for it, and they enjoy a lot of protections denied to many of the rest of us in the line of their duty as part of a free press. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. When the media do push something, we've seen that the government responds. When they don't, when they try and preach silver linings or happy clappy stories about one guy getting better on a day where nearly 1,000 died, then you are condemning even more people. So those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, then please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.